بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Knowledge of the future, the predictive miracle of the Quran. Another miraculous aspect of the Quran that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ presented as evidence for his genuine messengerhood was its miraculous predictions of the future. Not every prediction is miraculous. A weather prediction by a news channel, for example, is not miraculous if it comes true. Neither is a political analyst's prediction of war, nor an investor's prediction of a rise in stock prices. All of these predictions are made in light of an expert's analysis of information available to him right now. His knowledge of the outcomes that have followed from this information in the past lead him to believe that that similar outcomes will follow in the future. Vague and general predictions can be fulfilled in many different ways. Vague and general predictions that can be fulfilled in many different ways are not miraculous either. For example, if you open up a fortune cookie and read, your future will bodes happiness, or tomorrow will bring a great surprise, then these predictions are not miraculous because they can be realized by many different specific possibilities, and none of these specific possibilities were actually intended by the fortune cookie manufacturer. The manufacturer deliberately used vague language to give the misleading impression that he knows what will happen in the future. Horoscopes and fortune tellers frequently use this technique to fool people into believing that they have knowledge of the future. In order for a prediction to be miraculous, it needs to be, and this is something, of course, should be clear, that we don't believe in fortune telling and the predicting of future. Only Allah knows the future, and that knowledge is given to prophets. Nobody else can give that knowledge of what will happen in the future unless it is through revelation. In order for a prediction to be miraculous, it needs to be made in historical circumstances where the information available could not possibly have led them to make that prediction. Right? And it needs to be made in a very specific way that clearly reveals the detailed future knowledge of the one making the prediction. When that happens, the prediction is miraculous because it clearly interrupts the association between a natural cause, the analytic abilities of human beings and its effect, the true predictions that they make about the future. That is what we mean when we say that the predictions of the Quran are miraculous. The Quran contains many miraculous predictions. Here is one example. This is going to get us into a lesson in history, which is going to connect to a verse of the Quran. So bear with me. At the time when the Quran was being revealed, world politics were defined by a power struggle between the two great powers of the time. The polytheistic Sasanian Empire in the east, Persia, and the Christian Byzantine Empire in the west, or Rome. Western Rome was known as the Byzantine Empire. Shortly before the immigration of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Sassanids obliterated the Byzantines. As the polytheistic Sassanids reached the peak of their power against the Christian Byzantines, the persecution of the Muslims in Mecca by the Meccan polytheists also reached its peak. When the news of the Sassanian victories reached Mecca, the Meccan polytheists rejoiced and taunted the Muslims, saying, "Our brethren, the polytheistic oh my God, I'm mispronouncing it. Somebody help me out? Sassanians. The Sassanites, the Sassanians, have defeated your brethren." So the mushriks, they would go to the Muslims and tell them, "Our brothers, the polytheists of the Sassanide Empire, have defeated your Christian brothers." Because Muslims had more commonalities with Christians. We both claimed revelation and prophethood. And the Sassanites and the Meccan polytheists believed in what? Idolatry. Right? They believed in these multiple deities and gods. So when the Sassanians defeated the Christian Byzantines, the Meccans were like, "Look, they defeated them. This is a sign from God. We'll also crush you like the way the Sassanians crushed the Christian Byzantines." So they said, "Have defeated your brethren," i.e. the Christian Byzantines. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught that the revelations he received were a continuation of the revelations received by the Jews and the Christians before him. That is why they were using that as an insult against him, because of what he had preached. Well, that's why we call the people of Christianity and Jews, we call them people of the book, because we believe that they did receive revelation, but that it was distorted. Their intent was to tell the Muslims at the height of their persecution that just as the Sassanians had obliterated the Byzantines, the Meccan polytheists would obliterate the Muslims. The Sassanian victory over the Byzantines is a well-documented historical event. It began around 589 Common Era. Common Era referring like to this current calendar that we're following. When a civil war in Persia led to a general toppling the Emperor Khosrow II, I hope I'm saying it right, who fled to the Byzantine Emperor Maurice. Maurice intervened in Sassanian politics to restore Khosrow. He spelled it with an O there and with a U here. That is interesting. So we'll go with Khosrow, I guess. Khosrow II to the throne and married his daughter to him. All right. So the event here is what the Emperor Khosrow II fled Byzantine to Emperor Maurice. Maurice was a Sassanian king. And so what did this Sassanian king do? He restored Khosrow to power and married his daughter to him. So now Maurice, who is the emperor of the Sassanid Empire, and Khosrow II, who is the emperor now of the Byzantine Empire, are family, right? That's his son-in-law. Are we clear where the events are so far? All right. Continuing. Shortly afterwards, there was a civil war in the Byzantine Empire, and Maurice was overthrown and executed. Maurice was of the king. Okay, Khosrow was of the Byzantine Empire, Sassanid Empire. I mixed that up. But anyways, going back, there was a civil war in the Byzantine Empire, and Maurice was overthrown and executed. Khosrow, who was married to Maurice's daughter, took this as an excuse to launch a full-scale invasion of the Byzantine Empire. Clear so far? All right. The invasion was more successful than any other in the centuries-long history of Sassanian and Byzantine wars. The Sassanians crossed the Euphrates, then the Tigris, conquered Asia Minor, and even took Jerusalem, the holiest city of Christendom. Upon conquering Jerusalem, they seized the three holiest relics of Christianity: the true cross on which Christians believe Jesus had been crucified, the true lance with which Christians believe Jesus was stabbed as he died on the cross, and the holy sponge which Christians believe that he had been dipped in vinegar and given to Jesus to drink as he lay down on the cross. The Sassanian seizure of these relics represented the complete domination of the polytheistic Sassanians over the Christian Byzantines, and they made a public display of their domination by marching the relics back to their capital at Ctesiphon? Ctesiphon? I hope I'm saying it right. Somebody can Google, check this pronunciation on Google for us. As a result of this humiliation, the Byzantine Empire, Pocus, was overthrown by Heraclius, who immediately offered to make peace with Khosrow II in order to save the remnants of the Byzantine Empire. Khosrow II, drunk with a power over the Byzantines that no Sassanian emperor had ever had before him, responded with a proud declaration of himself as God, saying that he defeated the God of Heraclius, and contemptuously refused Heraclius' petition for peace. So Khosrow, again, his father-in-law was murdered. So once he saw his father-in-law, the king of Byzantine, murdered, he attacks Byzantine Empire, conquers them, takes Jerusalem, takes the three most sacred Christian relics, and he marches through the Christian lands, showing his dominance and power. Within the Byzantine Empire, there was a coup, and Heraclius defeated Pocus, who was the current emperor of Byzantine. And Heraclius tried to restore peace with Khosrow II, but he refused. Khosrow was like, no, and he declared himself to be divine. Continuing. At the same time, so again, right, the Sassanids had one of their greatest victories over the Christian Byzantine Empire, right? The Meccans are hearing this news, right? The Meccans are insignificant, right? Arabia was insignificant to the world. And when you look at the history, they didn't even have a government. They were scattered Bedouins, tribes and villages. That was it. They were nobodies in the greater politics of the world. They had no political power, military power, economic power. They didn't even have a centralized government to represent them. But for them, they're like, oh, the Persians and us, we share common beliefs. We believe in this idea, this belief theology of multiple deities, gods, and idols, and so on. So when they saw the Persians win, they said, these are our brethren. Since God has given them victory, this shows that our religion is true and that this religion of monotheism will be defeated. So that's kind of their logic. At the same time, the Muslims' persecution in Mecca was reaching its peak. Also, Muslims were being obliterated in Mecca around the same time. They were being starved, oppressed, and tortured. Upon hearing this news, the Meccan polytheists rejoiced, and they said to the Muslims, our brethren have vanished your brethren, indicating thereby that they were also going to be victorious over the Muslims. The two situations are analogous. If I'm saying it right. Sorry with all the words today. Analogous. Sorry, there we go. The two situations are analogous because any observer would have predicted at this time that the Persian Empire will put an end to the Byzantine Empire and that the Muslims will likewise be completely annihilated in Mecca. At this time, in response to the Meccan polytheists' taunt against the Muslims they were persecuting, the following prediction was revealed in the opening verses of Surah Ar-Rum. The Byzantines have vanquished in the near part of the land, and after their vanquishing, they shall be the victors in a few years. Sorry, let me repeat that again. The Byzantines have been vanquished in the nearest part of the land, and after their vanquishing, they shall be the victors in a few years. This is in Surah Ar-Rum. غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَدْنَى الْأَرْضِ وَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ غَلَبِهِمْ سَيَغْلِبُونَ فِي بِضْعِ سِنِينَ. Meaning that the Byzantines have been defeated in the lowest land, and after a few years they will become victorious again, or they will become victorious. This prediction was made by the Quran, that the Romans, the Byzantines, would become victorious in a matter of a few years. In a matter of a few years, the Quran made this prediction. Interestingly, the Quran said they were defeated in the lowest land, and this is actually very interesting geographically. It was found that the area of these battles that occurred, or the major battle that occurred between the Byzantine and the Sassanid Empire, occurred on the lowest land with regards to the surface of the earth. It is the lowest land in regards to its its elevation. And so this is also another miracle of the Quran, because this was not something that was discoverable by any human being at the time. Continuing, this prediction was made against all odds. No one who had information about the complete Sasanian obliteration of the Byzantines would make such a prediction. And the prediction was made in a very clear way. A more precise translation of the Arabic words that have been translated above is a few years. بِضْعِ سِنِينَ is between 3 and 10 years. The Quran boldly predicted that within a span of 3 to 10 years, the Byzantines who had been completely obliterated by the Sasanians and were internally fractured by civil war would dominate over their enemies. And the prediction came true. When these verses were revealed, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu made a bet with the Meccan polytheists that the Byzantines would emerge victorious after 3 years. Betting had not yet been forbidden in Islam. The polytheists accepted unhesitatingly because a Byzantine comeback was clearly impossible. But the time period that Abu Bakr had stipulated was too short. The Quran had predicted that the victory would happen in between 3 and 10 years. But Abu Bakr had only given 3 years. That is why when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ heard about the bet, he told Abu Bakr to convince the polytheists to increase the time to 10 years in exchange for increasing the amount of the bet. Again, the polytheists accepted unhesitatingly because any kind of Byzantine comeback seemed completely impossible. And yet, against all odds, and within the time that the Quran had said, The prediction came true. Heraclius led an astounding Byzantine comeback, and Khusro II was overthrown by his own son and sent to die in prison. Is the miracle clear? The historical miracle here? All right.